Hey everyone, thank you for listening to another episode of Spoiler Force Podcast. You can find more episodes on any major podcasting platform such as Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and even on YouTube. Don't forget to subscribe and make sure to follow and like Spoiler Force Podcast on Facebook. If you want to listen to more pop culture podcasts, make sure to check out the Epic Sewers Podcast Network presented by Epic Shells. There are podcasts such as Epic Tales Podcast, Epic Tales from the Sewer, What's in My Head Podcast, Creator Con Q&A, Comic Watchers, Turtle Tracks, and Spoiler Force Podcast. Thank you for supporting our podcast. My name is Ricky. This is Spoiler Force Podcast. I'm with the great Rob Paulsen, and it's an honor to meet him.
Well, I don't know about that. Fortunately for all of you out there and me, Ricky has lowered his standards with respect to voice actors. But from Yakko, I just want to tell you guys you are listening and watching the Spoiler Force Podcast. See you in the water tower. Good night, everybody!
So this is episode 80 of Spoiler Force Podcast. My name is Ricky, and thank you for tuning in. So this week's guest is someone that I'm extremely excited to collaborate with, another podcaster as well. And it's amazing to see how, not just having a variety of guests, but when I get to work with just podcasters, I love being able to learn from them as well. And the guest I have here, he has been able to get like amazing voice actors as his guests, and so I had to just talk to him about how he was able to do this. So let me introduce my guest here, Julian of the What's in My Head podcast. I'm so sorry, I butchered that so bad. Oh my god. Here, oh my god, I'm so sorry, man.
No, right off the bat, man. I got to tell you a story real quick before we get started. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to be on the Spoiler Force podcast. I am loving what you're doing, and I'm loving what I'm doing, and that's just talking to people, shooting the shit, doing it for free, right? And yesterday, I had a guy on, and he is doing. I don't know if you're familiar with the Ed and Eddie show back in the day.
Yeah.
But he is doing. It's called Peach Creek. He is doing a 5 years in the future type of thing, and his name was George Abingdon. And I looked right at his name, and I always ask somebody, how do you pronounce your name, just so I don't butcher it, because people will call me Justin or people will call me John, nowhere fucking near my name. But nonetheless, I looked at him, I'm like, yep, that's George Abington, and I called him Greg. So I give him this whole spiel. I was so happy, man. I'm loving what you're doing. And he was like, thanks for having me on. It's George, not Greg, but close enough. And I was like, fuck. And I sit here going, I'm like, man, I should probably let's start over. And then we started riffing for a few seconds. I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, man. Just leave it in. It's organic. We're going to sit here and get a laugh at it. Somebody's going to call me an asshole for fucking up your name. But nonetheless, man, we're here now, and I'm happy to be here, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this, man. I want to let listeners know too, man, how I discovered your podcast, dude. It was just through those Facebook groups. And that's how I found a lot of the collaborations I'm working with too, like Puzzle Minds podcast. Shout out to those guys. But for yours, man, your first episode right after Halloween, Rob Paulsen. Dude, I saw that. I thought it was like just a joke or something, like, just a gimmick because of the thumbnail. And I clicked on it. I was like, whoa, he really got Rob Paulsen for a first episode, man. That is, dude.
So how I get my guest, I essentially just Google people that I want to talk to. Like my guy that does all of my tech stuff, his name is Larry. Shout out to Larry. Larry Jennings, fantastic. Like he just drives me to not get all these people, but just do different stuff or do different things. And so when I started doing all of this stuff, it was just me Googling people, and easily enough, it's like mostly social media. You'll find out like who their agents are or who they're represented by, and I just find out that, and I send them an email, and they either say yes or they say no. And I was lucky enough to get out 2 people that I've had like on my bucket list if I ever got to talk to people. And that was Rob and Billy West, which was Fry of Futurama. I mean, I don't even know where the fuck to go from here now at this point. I mean, I pretty much blew my load on the first 2 months of doing all that. I got great guests coming. I've got about 50 episodes or so in the can. I'm going to start releasing 2 a week here soon, but it's fun, man. It's easy. It's just talking. So I'm here.
Yeah, I wanted to say too, for new listeners as well, the reason why I'm like so jealous of Julian's first guest is because Rob Paulsen was the reason why I started podcasting. Talking to just the way how he's so excuse me, expressive with how he talks, his experiences, and just his overall career. I'm just like, man, I gotta do something like this, man. The way how he was just so into his art, and it didn't even seem like he was working at this, for just podcasting. So I had to do it. And I met Rob Paulsen at Michigan Comic Convention in 2019 in downtown Detroit, and meeting him, I was just like super starstruck, as a little kid watching Animaniacs, and Jimmy Neutron, and hearing his voice in person. I had like, I have this video. I'll probably use it for the intro once this is done getting edited. But man, you could just tell by how I spoke with him. I was just so in awe. I was like shaking. I'm like, oh man, this guy's amazing. But man, yeah, like I said, Julian, I applaud you for being able to pull a guest like that for your first guest.
Well, that was just the first one that I released. The first guest I actually had on was Bobby Curnow, and he was the editor since day one of the IDW's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And a lot of these guests that were getting on, I was just doing through GarageBand. I'd phone call most of them. And after a while, I was like, man, Zoom works so much better because I get to see and hear. I'm kind of lucky and sad that I got to talk to Rob, because I wish I would have done it through Zoom or some kind of video communication like we're doing now. But I'm also glad because I would have got turned into a complete me. I was in tears most of it, just sitting here. There's nothing crazier than a voice or a dish, right? So food, a smell, a sight, but mainly a voice, right? That just transports you back to being a kid, in a carefree time where you don't have to worry about bills, you don't have to worry about stress, you don't have to worry about this, that, or the other. It's just, where was I at when I heard Rob as Yakko, or I heard Rob as Carl Weezer, I heard Rob as Donatello in 2012, or in 87 as Raphael. So I hope to get to redo that one and do it by video. Hopefully I won't be ugly girl crying or fat guy crying. But nonetheless, man, like I said, it was a fun episode. I can't wait to continue to do more.
So, I mean, how'd you get into it? I know you said you'd like to just talk with people, but what made you decide to just start your podcast?
Well, I work in the restaurant industry, and back in March, most people, they told us to go home, and we never got a call to come back. So, back in the day, or not back in the day, because it was in fucking March.
It seems like it's not long ago.
It really seems like this year is 2 years. So I don't know, because I'm 31 right now. I don't know if I should be 33 next year or 32. This year's just, like I said, it's been fucking crazy. But so I started this little cooking thing that I do, because I've been cooking since I was 12. The Vanilla Gorilla Kitchen, I was doing that. And then I was having a lot of fun with that. I picked up tracks like 3,000 people in just a few short months. And then 20, 30, 40 people watching it live, just me teaching people how to cook. And then I started interacting with people as I was cooking. And then somebody's like, man, you talk really well, or you explain shit really well. And I was like, man, I do. And I listen to nothing but podcasts now. I very rarely do I listen to music or anything other than a podcast when I'm driving or, hanging out, doing dishes, cleaning, whatever. And I was like, this sounds really, really fun and really easy. And then Rogan was like, man, if you can just get a microphone, you got some interesting shit to say, do it. Why not? Right. And that's kind of how I took it. I was like, screw it. I want to talk to these people. And it was a mixture of going home, but it was also a mixture of Kobe dying this year, Chadwick Boseman dying this year. And there's an artist out there. His name is Joyner Lucas. And he did a song called Will, which is Will Smith was, I don't know if you've ever seen it. If you're not, I'll send it to you after this.
No, I've seen it. It's a great video.
He has this line, and I get goosebumps every time I think about it, is give them a rose while they're still here. And I started thinking, I'm like, I'm 31. Some of these guys are in their 60s, and some of these guys have passed, like Casey Kasem, the original voice of, Scooby-Doo. You have Frank Welker that is Shaggy. And you got Frank Welker as Scooby, but it used to be Don Messick. So all these people that I kind of missed to get a chance to meet, talk to, say thank you, or, like Joyner said, hand them their roses. I didn't want to take another chance of not being able to say that, not give thanks, or not say, you made my childhood and my adulthood. And now my kid, I got a 10-year-old kid. He's down there and he's watching the same shit I'm watching. So I just didn't want to take a chance of not saying thank you for, having such a huge impact on my life.
Man, that is powerful, man. Yeah. I never really thought of it like that too. I mean, it's just wild though. When you see like the people you admire pass, and it just doesn't affect you until you see it. You know, like they're so immortalized through their work. So, you know, you're used to hearing their voices or seeing their acting, and then when reality sets in, it's like, you know, you either missed out the opportunity to meet them, or, you know, you're gonna try to find ways to meet them in person. So I think that's amazing that you're doing that. And I felt the same too. You know, that's why I had to meet Rob Paulsen in 2019, because I missed the opportunity back in like 2017-ish. He was in Novi, Michigan. I saw his booth and I was just like, yeah, I can see him at another convention, and I regretted it since. So
have you read his book yet?
No, I have not, but it was about his surviving cancer, right?
Well, it's pretty much his entire career, how he got started, but a big portion of it, like probably once you hit like Act 2, if we're using like movie sense, like Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, once you hit like Act 2, that middle of the book, he just goes in depth about cancer just destroying his body, his voice, and he had it. Not, I want to say nice, because that's putting a word in his mouth that he didn't use, but he had it a lot better than most people did with this disease. Because it's either you get it and you can survive it, or you usually find it and you're too far gone. This book was so, I wish I had the name. I don't have my iPad in here, but just look up voice actor Rob Paulsen book. It came out last year before last. It is a fantastic book, man. It is one of those ones that is just a page turner. And then you start hearing all the crazy shit he did as a kid, or how he looked at the business when he came in. And then you talk to this dude, and he's the most genuine, nicest person I've ever met. And I didn't even meet him face to face, but I talked to him over the phone for like an hour. The sweetest guy I've ever met. And to see somebody that is at the top, right? He's royalty to me when it comes to voice acting, him and Billy West alone. To see them talk to me the way they talked to me, and then treated me just like them, normal people. I was like, dude, man, you're fucking royal. You're Rob Paulsen. Like, what goes through your mind? What is Thanksgiving like with you, with all of these voices, and then all the stories he would tell? And like I said, the book is just fantastic. I wish I would have read it before we talked. But it was, like I said, it's a beautiful book, man. Check it out if you get the chance.
So you mentioned you have a bunch of pre-recorded episodes.
Oh yeah.
So how long have you been podcasting? Was it was just only this year then, right? You got all those episodes pre-recorded, or was it before any of that?
Oh, no. Yeah. It's all within the last 2 months, maybe.
Okay.
I sit here, and the way I was going to do it, I wanted to have at least 20 in the can before I started releasing. Just in case I hit a snag where I wasn't getting any guests, or, life just happens. So I went and got a whole bunch. And then for some reason, I just hit like all these guys are at home. All these guys and girls are at home right now, like we are, and not being able to do much, so most of the time they just want to talk. They want to see fans. They miss us just as much as we miss them. So I just started asking. I started saving, because I got to a point where I'd had like 15 in there. And I think my voice is extremely annoying. It's real raspy right now. I actually had to break up I have 4 dogs. I had to break up 2 of my dogs fighting, because we bought them all new toys. Each of them got one, and one wanted the same one as the other one. And then, so I had to, just fucking stop. And I'm just sitting there trying to pull 2 dogs apart. And, so my voice is a little raspy, but I was afraid of releasing them because of my voice or how I sounded, or I just didn't know if anybody would really be interested. And then I thought, I was like, I already did all of this work. I just got to release it and put it out there. Just fucking do it, man. And then the big point that all of this really was I was listening to a Rogan podcast, and he was like, I go back and listen to my first episode. I go back and listen to shit I did 4 years ago, and I want to slap myself in the head because I sounded so stupid. He's like, don't worry what you sound like. Just put it out there. If you're something passionate about it, if you got something to talk about, the fans are eventually going to come. It might take 1 year. It might take 10 years. I mean, this man's been doing it for 10 years, and he just signed a $100 million contract with Spotify, right? And I'm not doing it for the money. I hope to have money one day from this, but, I'd rather it still be a passion project than a profit project, if that makes any sense.
No, I agree with that 100%, because, I've seen people who are just jumping onto podcasting because they see the money in it, or the potential, income of it. And it comes down to, just like you said, man, just the things you talk about and having it flow organically. People are just so quick to try to book like major guests, or trying to get clickbait stuff. And And I've said this on my social media account before. If you can have like all the great gear and all that stuff, but if you're not engaging or don't have an engaging audience, no one's fucking with you.
Yeah, nobody gives a shit, man.
Yeah, it is tough though. I mean, like that's the hard part about podcasting right now, man. It's just so much content out there.
Yeah.
And being consistent, as much of a cliche that is, man, that's what it really comes down to. You just got to be consistent with your work. For me, I never really thought about saving episodes like how you've done. When I started, I just dropped episodes weekly or every other week. And then once I started getting more consistent and kind of finding my voice, I have a buddy who told me that, he was like, you don't really find your voice until like your 10th or 20th episode. So you're gonna just talk about whatever, and that's what I did for my first few episodes. I was trying to do like reviews and stuff. That's what I started with. That's why it's spoiler force. But then by the time I knew it, I was booking guests, and I still talk about like all the nerdy stuff here and there, but it's evolving, and I think I like that much more now than just sticking to what I was comfortable with before.
I mean, it 100% agree with you. When I first started this out, so I started looking at podcasting. I've been recording for about 2 months, but I started looking at podcasting, I want to say back in August. And I had an opportunity, at least I thought it was at that time, and then I just got ghosted for it. But when I initially set out to do this podcast, it was originally called the Turtle Tapes, right? And the idea behind that was I was such a huge influence, and I got the toys right here, but these guys right here, right? The Ninja Turtles from that 90s movie, right? That first initial movie is what got me into comic books in general, like into pop culture, into comic books. That movie alone, I burnt that movie out 3 times on VHS. And I've said it on my podcast a couple times where I had 2 VHSs back in the day that I just watched and like as soon as one was done, rewind, insert the other one. And it was that Ninja Turtle movie, and it was Dumb and Dumber. Guess which one my mom didn't buy me when I burned it out because I was consistently watching it? Was that Dumb and Dumber movie, because she was just tired of hearing Jim Carrey's most annoying sound in the world. So she continually bought me the Ninja Turtles, and it's been like, I don't want to say downhill, because if you just look at all this shit around here, I mean, my wife calls it a sickness more than anything, but it's that's what it was about, right? So I reached out to this reporter. And he had written this article about this guy. His name was Gary Proper. He is the reason that this movie got made. And he lived 20, 30 minutes down the street from me. He lives in New Smyrna Beach. I live in Deltona. Most of the people confuse it with Daytona Beach. We don't have beaches here. We just have woods and spiders and shit. Daytona is the one where the beaches are. So I reached out to him. I found out that, he had passed last year before last. And I wanted to, just talk to people that made it, because I didn't know this name beforehand. And I wanted people to know this name. So I got to talking to his manager, and his manager is doing a 90s TMNT documentary. He had all the original cast come back, all this stuff. He had the original producers, the original writers, which I've since spoken to. I haven't released them yet, but I've spoken to the original writer and the original producer. And he was supposed to open up all these doors for me, man. They have a podcast studio that they built. They wanted to get this on board. They had like 13,000 subscribers on their Ninja Turtle YouTube thing. They had same thing on their Instagram page. And it just, I don't know what happened, man. I lined up all these guests. I did all this legwork. And then he ghosted me for like a month, right? Never heard back from him. So I said, fuck it, man. I'm not going to use Turtle Tapes, because I didn't want to like just pigeonhole it to Ninja Turtles, because I like comic books. I mean, we'll talk about My Hero, because I'm super excited that you're into that. I love this shit. And before I go any further, but what's your schedule like tonight? Because this sounds like it might go over that initial hour, which I'm perfectly okay with if you are, and we can just release this 1 hour on yours, and we can do another 1 hour later if you're up for it.
Yeah, we can do that. I'm fine.
That's perfectly fine. I just don't want to fuck up the flow, because I'm actually enjoying. Not to say I wasn't going to enjoy this, but I'm actually enjoying conversation, right? But so I wanted to open it up to like all the crazy shit I'm into, from My Hero to the Notorious B.I.G. to fucking Batman, the Orlando Magic. I'm a huge NBA fan. I just didn't want to like I said, pigeonhole myself to one genre, because there's turtle fans out there, but there's also turtle fans that are into musicians, that are into athletes, that are into comic book creators, that are into animators and voice actors. So I was like, fuck it, man. Let's just do what I want to do. What's in my head? Who knows what's in my head at this point, right? So there's just a whole bunch of crazy shit. And that's kind of how I'm here now, right? So
that is awesome. I love hearing other people's experiences with podcasting, man, because for me, I'm a very, I don't know, I come from like a fan's point of view almost to anyone. I don't care if someone has like 1 or 1,000 subscribers. Like if I like your work, I'm gonna, appreciate your work. So hearing where you're coming from, just the experience you've gone through, I love just learning from that and seeing where other people come from and learning their perspectives of how they got to where they're at right now. Because when it comes down to it, for me, it's always just about expressing your art and just creativity and being yourself on the podcast. I think that's what really draws in folks. But Ninja Turtles, man, I honestly, I'm you're gonna get upset. I wasn't a big Turtles fan growing up. I wasn't, but I've read some of the comics. Have you read the latest one with the Last Ronin?
Yeah, the Last Ronin was fantastic, man.
What's your thoughts on the who they decide to pick as the Last Ronin?
Have you read it yet?
I know who it is. I haven't read it, but I know who it is.
So I had a feeling it was going to be Mikey right off the bat, because he was the character that was the heart of the team. He was the heart of the brothers. Whenever somebody was down, especially in the series that they're doing right now, I think they're up to like issue 113, 114, somewhere around there. And this is set in the future, right? So he was that chuckly guy. And what's funny now in the the ongoing series of the TMT, Mikey's actually a podcaster. And he's doing podcasting in his own like little garage band type of way, because the mutants have segmented away from the humans. A mutant bomb went off, and now they're all in their little sect of the city. So it made sense for it being Mikey. However, Mikey was never my favorite turtle. It was always Raphael. Always just associated. I could understand why there were so many layers to Raphael, not just an angry guy, So I was hoping that it was going to be more Donatello than it was Michelangelo, because Donnie was my second favorite guy. And I would have loved to seen a Donatello go and create a whole bunch of, metalheads or, turtle-like suits, almost like Tony Stark did in the Marvel movies with all of his suits, right? All of these guys just coming and fighting for him. Plus, like I said, I was just never a big Mikey guy. I didn't get why everybody liked him. But, I loved the book. The book was fantastic. And I actually got to talk to Kevin Eastman, co-creator of the Ninja Turtles, a couple weeks ago. And that one, you'll actually see me tear up a little bit in that Zoom call. But I liked the book overall. It was fantastic. It's a good read, man. If you can find an issue less than $25-$30, man, I really suggest picking up. Buy it digital, because it's like $2, $3, $4, $5.99, whatever it is.
Yeah, I was debating about buying it, but at this point, I was just like, I only wanted to find out who it was. I was expecting it to be Donnie. I was like hyping it up to all my friends, like, yo, it's gonna be Donnie, trust me. Yeah. And then nope, it was Mikey. I was like, okay, well, I can see why too. Like the change of character for Mikey, for someone being so, so positive, and then having him turn kind of like almost like a Jason Todd kind of ish, just kind of be more cold. I like that idea too. But I think I related to Donnie a lot, because he was more of the smarter one, the more laid back one. So I grew up kind of liking him more out of the Turtles. But man, like I've said, like, I only know so much about Ninja Turtles, so I don't want to keep talking like as if I know about.
Oh no, you're perfectly fine. Hey man, just fake it till you make it. That's what everybody tells me.
I mean, Ninja Turtles is iconic though, man. Like just the colors, the headbands, man. Everyone knows. Like you don't even have to look at the turtles. You just see the colors and you know who's who. I got a buddy who's like really into Ninja Turtles too, but he's a big Mikey fan. So when he found out that Mikey was the last Ronin, he was geeking out pretty heavy.
Yeah, his little PP got hard, I bet, man. Everybody that liked Mikey was just like, this is our time. So
you said you like My Hero Academia.
Brother, I shit on this show so much before I even watch an episode. So anime for me is very difficult to get into. It's just, there's things out there for people, and then there's things not out there for people. Just like there's a cartoon called Rise of the TMNT, which is most people do not like. Same thing with Teen Titans Go. Most people don't like. I liked all of them, but I just learned, throughout these years that there's things that are made for me, and then there's things that aren't made for me. And with anime, it was so difficult to get into. I could get into like Dragon Ball Z. That was like my entry point. Almost like every kid my age. Dragon Ball Z, that was the shit back in the day. That I don't think does Pokemon count as anime or no?
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure. I know it came out of Japan, but I've had these discussions with people that are like ride or die anime people, and I was like, oh yeah, I watch anime. I watch Dragon Ball Z, and you just get that look like, bitch, you don't watch the anime. That's not anime. That's not you. If you're not watching this, you're not watching this. You're not watching that. You're not watching anime.
Yeah, it's the same thing with like comic books,
yeah,
stuff like that too. But a lot of people. You can't deny it though, man. Like Pokemon, Dragon Ball Z, shit, even Sailor Moon. Like those.
I love Sailor Moon, bro. Who was your favorite sailor?
Jupiter, man.
Oh man, I
was
crushing hard on Mars and Jupiter, bro. So two regular age guys talking about Sailor. I love it.
No shame, man. Like that's honestly, that's one of the ones I grew up watching. Like I used to go to I guess like early kindergarten with one of my cousins. So like we used to always catch like one episode before we left for school in the morning as kids, and then we come back and there was like another rerun or something. So I watched it. I wasn't like too heavy into it, but Pokemon, Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Toonami on Cartoon Network was a huge gateway for anime fans. Watching like very like Tenchi Muyo, I like when you grow up watching a show like Tenchi Muyo as a kid and versus as an adult, like you realize like, man, they really put this on for kids, not knowing like the real like messages behind it. This guy was around like a bunch of girls that all crushed on him, and as a guy, little kids don't know this, but like as an adult, I rewatched it. I'm like, damn, this was not really good for me as a kid.
It's crazy when you start watching stuff and then you see the jokes that went over your head. I was just talking to a guy, and I'm gonna quit name dropping here, but I was just talking to a guy. He did a really funny. I talked to the voice of Pooh and Tigger from Christopher Robin. He's also been doing Pooh and Tigger since fucking 88, 89. And he was telling me all these things. Like he was Darkwing Duck as well. I don't know if you remember that cartoon.
I watched very little of it, but I know what it is.
So the first episode, once it hit Disney Plus, me and my kids started watching it. And I'm sitting there and I was like, dude, I fucking love this show. I looked at my son. I'm like, hey, you're going to love this show. This shit was so bananas when I was young. I was like, this was the shit. And I'm sitting there watching, and then he's talking, he's fighting. I can't remember the professor's name or the villain's name, but it's essentially a botanist that turns into a fucking plant. And he's like, now it's time to toss that salad. I'm like, holy shit. I don't know if that's what they meant 20, 30 years ago, but these dudes are talking about eating ass in 2019, but this was back in 1991. I told him that, and his fucking face turns red. He starts shaking his head and he's crying. He's like, yeah. He's like, thinking about that one now. I probably should have got that one back. But this is the same guy that got 2 fart jokes on a movie. And he called an officer an orifice instead of an officer. So, but yeah, it's funny when you watch something with adult level eyes, and the shit. SpongeBob is another big one. I don't know if you know that show, but listen to that shit. And I love that cartoon. All the shit that went over my head as a kid, I'm like, oh man, they were really targeting this adult audience as well as these kids with these jokes. And it's just fantastic, man.
Yeah, SpongeBob, I think I stopped watching it since I was like maybe after middle school, because it just got way too much after. Yeah. I think Tom Kenny's voice, I don't know if it changed or if something was different from like, maybe it was the animation or something, but something about it changed. I was just like, I don't know. I can't get into it anymore.
Oh,
like now it's like really weird.
I really enjoy it. For a long time, and I promise you we'll get back to My Hero. For a long time, I just quit watching like any new cartoons. I want to say like after, I graduated in 2008, joined the Navy in 2009, so probably around 2010, I pretty much quit watching cartoons. It was all about shit like Breaking Bad or what was the big one on HBO at that time?
Game of Thrones?
No, not Game of Thrones. It was the drug dealer one in Baltimore. The Wire. The Wire was real big. I was watching that one. So it was shows like that, and then Game of Thrones came in too. But I quit watching cartoons. because shit all just looked the same, right? It was the same animation. It looked like they just took one stencil and put a new title on it, and it was just dog shit, right? And going back to that thing where there's things made for me and there's things not made for me, I didn't have that mindset back then. So I was just like, man, fuck these cartoons, man. These cartoons suck. I'm just going to continue to watch this stuff. And then I come off a deployment one time, and then there's this show called The Regular Show. Have you ever seen this show?
I got a friend who's like obsessed with it. He'll throw references at me, and I won't get it, and he'll just make fun of me for it. He's like, you still have not watched that yet? So, yeah, I know what it is.
It's so fun to just sit back, spark a joint, and then just sit back and watch it. My kid was probably roughly around 2, right? So he's still in diapers and shit. This is back when like dad is like the coolest fucking person. He would like see me coming through, like we had these things. I don't know if what you guys might call them, but we call them storm doors down here, where you've got your your regular door, and then you get an all glass door where you can see out too once you open your front door. So I just don't know what everybody else calls them, but we just call them storm doors. So my kid would see me and I would see him, and he would point. He'd be sitting there holding his fucking sippy cup. He'd just be in a diaper and a shirt, and he'd see me, and I'd throw my hand up like this, and he would do what Mordecai and Rigby did. He'd just, whoa, just through the whole fucking house. Anytime he see me, I'd point, I'd go, hit it. And then he'd go, whoa. My wife fucking hated it. She's just sitting there. She's like, shut the fuck up, please. I'm so tired of whoa. Or we'd sit there because they always go, right? So we would always just do that back and forth. That show got me back into cartoons, and to kick it a little bit forward, me and my kid, we would go to the movie theaters, right? We'll watch TV together. We'll watch movies, something to bond, because that's like my Disney World, is getting to go to the movie theaters, watching a new movie, watching something and experiencing it with somebody else. And for some reason, I just turned on My Hero. I was upstairs. I was pissed off one day. So kid was downstairs doing his homework. I'm just sitting there. And I was like, man, My Hero's on. Everybody's talking about this shit. My comic book guy says it's good. He hasn't, Sam, shout out to him. He hasn't, turned me wrong on anything yet. So I turned it on, and I'm just listening in the background. I'm not even really paying attention. I'm sitting here just looking over some shit, probably getting ready to do a food video at that point. And I hear before I see. And I look over. I'm like, is that fucking Piccolo? And I look over because Piccolo's my dude in Dragon Ball Z. He's my favorite character in that entire show. And I look over, and then I'm watching this dude as All Might, is that whole first episode. And I'm like, holy shit. I was like, I instantly hit pause. I told my kid, I was like, fuck your schoolwork. Turn the computer off. We're watching Piccolo. And he was like, Dad, what's Piccolo? And I was like, don't worry about what Piccolo is. We're going to watch this because Piccolo's doing this voice. And he was just looking at me. He's like, Dad's for sure lost his shit. So I turn it on. And, usually whenever we watch something like an anime or something that's super, super fast or in a different language, I would leave the subtitles on, because that's what everybody tells you to. You got to watch it, subtitles and all this shit. But he couldn't keep up with the pace, right? I was sitting there having to pause it every 2-3 seconds to explain to him what was going on in the story. So we just said, fuck it. And we watched the dubbed up version. And this show is probably the best fucking cartoon, anime, whatever I have ever seen, probably in the last 20 years. I mean, I think this beats Dragon Ball Z if you want to be completely honest.
For me, my number one anime is always going to be Naruto.
Mm-hmm.
But My Hero Academia has set a new standard for just shonen storytelling. I mean, they're with Studio Bones. They do such an amazing job. But Horikoshi, the writer of the manga, like, he's doing something great with My Hero. For me, I was shitting on it too, because it came out during the time when MCU was super hot.
Yeah.
Like all the big movies, the collaborations, everything was Marvel, so you can definitely see the MCU or Marvel-esque like inspiration in the anime. But my cousin just kept telling me to watch. He's like, you got to keep watching it, man. It's going to be good. And, Deku is such a different protagonist, super sensitive, crybaby ass boy. Like, he's not rigid, like, or he's not tough like Goku or Naruto, or he's not, he's just a really nerdy kid. And I think that's what really drew me to his character, was because he's relatable. Like, he seems more down to earth and human than, you can't really relate to Naruto because he's got a 9-tailed fox in him. So, but with Deku, he had no quirk. He was just a nerd. And then by the time he gets the best power in the world and he works hard for it, and he's getting outclassed, and that's what I liked about My Hero. Like, he's not just off the bat like just the best. He is struggling to keep up with these characters who are like super well written. You know, like Bakugo, who's one of your favorites. We talked about this, you know, before we recorded. Bakugo, Todoroki. You know, one of my favorites, Tokoyami, the Dark Shadow Court.
Yeah.
And so, you know, Deku is just what makes me like, it's like a love-hate thing, because I love Deku, but I hate him too, because I don't, are you caught up on the manga yet? Because I know we talked a little bit about this too.
So with that, I am at a crossroads where I've got up to volume 13 up there. So I think that's right after where the show pretty much ends at where we're at right now. Maybe another issue or maybe another volume or two, and then I'll be caught up to where the show left off. I don't know if I want to read ahead. It sucks because I want to. It's like this show is like heroin, man, and I've never done heroin before, but I can only imagine from watching, you know, Kurt Cobain ruin his life and all these other things that people just shot heroin of. This shit is so addictive where I just don't. I want to be surprised when the show comes back on, and I just don't know if I want to read it, but I want to read it after the show comes out, if that makes sense, because this show is so fun, and I don't want to lose like that spark or that luster or, you know, that new feeling. If this makes any sense, I hope. I'm just sitting here rambling at this point. I want to be like surprised when I watch this show. I don't want to know what's coming because I just won't feel I don't think I'll feel as engaged when I'm watching it with my kid, because that's what we do. We just sit there and we'll watch a few episodes. Like we burnt through the series in like 2 weeks. And the movie. I think they have 2 movies out now, but we burnt through those in like 2 weeks, give or take. And I don't know if I want to be non-surprised, you know? So
Right.
I'm so torn. Should I read ahead?
Well,
everybody says it's fantastic.
I'm pretty biased, so I would honestly say you should, but I understand too, like not wanting to ruin the surprise.
Yeah.
Because like I mean, there's a thing too, you know, when you do like I did that with Naruto. I got ahead with Naruto, and then I kind of knew what was coming. And then, you know, when you read the manga, like how you read books too, you kind of set a standard to the show or the anime. But My Hero has been very, I guess they've done more than what I expected. That's the best way I can put it, because I haven't been disappointed yet. I mean, the Mirio Togata fight, I wish they animated that, but you know, they were doing that when they were still doing the movie. So yeah. I understand, you know, with budgets and all that, but I mean, they still told the story great though. That's why I can't get mad about that. But you know, I still get surprised. Like I'm more hyped to watch it animated in a different perspective, like not so much story wise, so then I know what's coming, but just to see it and hear the voice actors and see how what changes are they going to make, because sometimes you never know, they might make a big twist in the anime and it might be something different. So I kind of look for that, but I think it's all the same to me. But right now in the manga, I'm not going to spoil anything for you, but right now the manga is absolute fire right now. The arc that they're doing, it's pretty much it's gonna be like I can say this. This may be like a turning point. Like it's there to. I don't know if it's confirmed or not, but like it may be like I guess Naruto Shippuden type thing. So I don't know if they're gonna do that or they're just gonna keep hyping it up and keep going. So I don't know if they're doing a time skip or not, but they're definitely teasing something like that. But I mean, I don't know. I think My Hero is going to be here for the long run, man. Like it's super successful. I don't know if you've seen the update, but they released the poster for the 3rd movie, which is going to be slated for summer of 2021, which is very soon.
Especially with everything going on right now.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to see what they have in store. If you like podcasts like me and want to start your own, use Buzzsprout. Buzzsprout is a very effective and easy way to begin your podcasting journey. With easy-to-use tools, Buzzsprout can help you get your podcast to major podcasting platforms like Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more. You can view stats, create audio clips, and even have your own podcasting website. Buzzsprout has helped hundreds of thousands of people to begin their own podcasts like myself, and you can find ideas, tips, tricks, video tutorials to better your own podcast. Follow the link in the description to start your own podcast today And once you sign up, you'll get a $20 Amazon gift card. This lets Buzzsprout know that I sent you, and this also helps support Spoiler Force Podcast. Happy podcasting. Do you struggle with eating junk food and late night snacking? Well, I've been using FNX Sports Rebalance Super Greens, and I've been able to control my eating habits, get my daily vitamins, fiber, and loose fat around my stomach area. The Rebalance Super Greens comes in multiple flavors and is easy to use by just mixing the supplement and water. You can drink this anytime during the day and feel energized without any groggy after effects. Use the code SPOILERFORCE, all one word, SPOILERFORCE, and get 15% off your very first order.
I want to. So we intentionally did not talk about My Hero over the last 2 weeks, and like I said, I'm itching to talk about this shit, man. This shit. I wish, if there's anything I could take back in my life, it's shitting on this show so much before I ever watched an episode. Because if there's one thing I hate admitting when I'm wrong. Even though I admit when I'm wrong all the time, I fucking hate it, especially on something like a cartoon, which I love cartoons. Just a brief period of, not liking cartoons for like 4 or 5 years when they all look the same on Cartoon Network. But nonetheless, man, when you were sitting here watching this, I have two episodes in particular that even when I start to think about it now, like I'm already starting to get chills and goosebumps, right? And these 2 episodes, right, they worked me up more in stress than I've ever been worked up in real life over fictitious characters. And those 2 episodes were when All Might was fighting All for One, right? And then you see his flame, right? It starts to dwindle and it goes out. I'm sitting there and I was sitting down and I'm standing up, right? I got my hands on my head and I had hair like down to like my shoulders when this was going on earlier in the year. It just got too hot. I had to cut all this shit off. I'm sitting there and then I'm just like, no. Like after the flame goes out, I'm like, Jesus Christ, please don't fucking kill. You cannot kill the voice of Piccolo. Please do not fucking do this to me, Lord. I didn't know what was going on, right? He's just fighting. His flame goes out. I'm like, he's dead. Fuck this, right? And my wife's just sitting next to me because she would come home on lunch and we would have lunch because I was at home already. And she's like, you need to calm down. I was like, absolutely not. I was like, I'm done with this show. If they kill All Might, if they get rid of Chris Sabat as All Might, I'm done with this show. And then she was like, this is fake, right? And I'm like, yes, I know this is fake. And I don't need your negativity right now. I need a whole bunch of positivity because he cannot die. That scene, I'm trying not to like fucking get all teary-eyed, but it was such a beautiful scene. Him leaving everything out there, him destroying his body, him giving up the thing that he cherished the most to save everybody. It was the most beautiful poetic thing. And I don't know anything about poetry. I really don't. It was a fucking love letter to this. And I was like, you guys did this. This man, I can't pronounce his name, so I'm not going to butcher it, but you could do it. What was the guy that wrote this?
Kohei Horikoshi.
Thank you. Cause I would sit there and call it something completely. I would sound like a vanilla face for sure. Trying to just butcher this man's name. But he did something so beautiful. And they took a 2-dimensional character. And I've said this hundreds of times on these podcasts. They've taken a 2-dimensional character, right? Something flat, something that had no substance. And they turned this shit into a 3-dimensional character, right? They gave this soul. They gave this heart. And they gave me a reason to care about this fucking character, right? And it's not even like All Might's my guy. Like Bakugo is my favorite. I can't pick just one favorite character. So I've got a favorite student, which is Bakugo. I love everybody. Every Goku needs a Vegeta. Every Vegeta needs a Goku, right? At least that's how I break it down. And then, Aizawa, right? I thought this dude was a stoner. I was like, oh shit, there's something in here for everybody. He's fucking in a sleeping bag. His eyes are bloodshot. He's fucking rolling into class, and he's got a Capri Sun. This motherfucker's tired, stoned, and he's keeping hydrated because he's got the cool Sun, Capri Sun, right? I was like, they got something for everybody, right? And then you get this bad motherfucker right here. Give me 1 second. Right? And you got this bad motherfucker named Shigaraki right here, right? The greatest villain. Like, he's my favorite villain in here. I got Bakugo sitting, right in front of me right here. He's always never too far. And then Kirishima's back there, which is that episode alone too, that Red Riot episode.
Oh, I love it. I can never get sick of that scene.
Dude, it's I don't know what it is. It's about them leaving everything. And the one that I didn't think, because I always thought Endeavor was going to be my guy. When I started watching the show, like Endeavor's sitting right there. He's one of my Funko Pops. He's sitting right there. He was just fucking imposing. He was like a man's man, something that I'd probably never be, because I just don't give a shit about moving or fixing stuff. I just lift heavy stuff up from side to side from time to time. But he was like that guy that every guy, like rugged and shit. He was a dude that was just gonna beat the hell out of somebody. In the final episode, with him going toe to toe with all of these things, and that last shot of him just holding up his fist, and then you see what was going on in Shoto's head, and Shoto's my kid's favorite character. Going on in him, and he's cheering for his dad. You see this redemption story, right? This guy that was hard on him. He wanted him to be the best. He wanted him to beat All Might. And then he goes out there and leaves everything on the line. And you're just like, God, where the hell does this man come up with all of these stories? How the hell does he take 20 plus characters and give everybody a moment in the sun, everybody to shine? There's no filler episodes in this series. There's no filler characters. Everybody has a purpose. Everybody has a point. And they all go like this, as uneven as that looks, right? They all go together. Everything is, it's like peanut butter and chili, man. It's a perfect combination. Potatoes and gravy. Perfect combination, right? Yeah,
Horikoshi makes... I read this comment on YouTube. He was like, Horikoshi makes everyone a main character.
But it's great when you can do it, though.
Yeah, I mean that's why, like I said with Deku, man, that's why I felt some type of way about Deku, because he's the main character, but everyone shines just as bright, man. Like even one of my favorites is Aoyama, the guy with the naval quirk. Even he has his moments, man. Like the scared kid, and then he finally like becomes brave enough to help save Tokoyami, and then even in the exam, he was willing to sacrifice his spot. You got who was one of my other favorites besides Tokoyami. Ida's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Just even though he's kind of like obnoxious, but he's like he's very honorable. Learning from that fight with Stain, which was one of the great fights in the series.
One of the best villains of all time.
But yeah, man, like everyone just has their moment, and bringing this up to, like you said, you watched the movie Heroes Rising, man. Mm-hmm. That is the perfect example for heroes, or each student having their moment. Yeah. Like everyone had their time, and even though it was just about Deku and Bakugo, like you just learn to appreciate these kids. Like I left that theater almost in tears. I was like, I literally teared up watching the finale, that battle. But then I walked out the theater, I was like, damn, these are just made up characters. Like you said, I was like, I'm so proud of Class 1A, man. I was like, dude, this is so freaking crazy. Like they all work together. They saved the island. They nearly died protecting these two little kids. It's phenomenal, man. Like, and I think that's what makes My Hero stands out so much. Like people shit on it because look, it's so different, but I think it's more than just the nitty gritty fighting and the explosions and the flashiness, like how Dragon Ball is. That's why I make fun of Dragon Ball fans from time to time, because they always, can they beat Goku? That's their go-to. But like Dragon Ball, as macho as it is, there's really no heart. Like Goku is a terrible father. He's the worst, and he's willing to put his planet and the universe on the line just to have a fight. And I don't know where this glorification of Goku being a hero came from, because he's not. I think he's inadvertently destroying the Earth, doing his job as a Saiyan, not knowing that he's doing it. That's how I see it. I'm like, and Vegeta's the real hero in the show. So yeah, but the characters for My Hero, man, like you mentioned Endeavor. Endeavor became one of my favorites because of that fight with the Nomu.
Yeah.
When I read that in the manga, I was just in awe. I was reading it at a beach in Florida when I went on vacation with my family. I was just sitting at the beach reading, and I was so like shocked reading it. I thought he was gonna die. I'm like, damn, they're about to kill off this character, and he's not even the number one, or he just became the number one hero. And watching him survive that, and then you said one of your favorite villains was Shigaraki.
Oh yeah.
For me, you'll learn eventually, but Dobby is one of my favorites.
Yeah, he's fantastic too.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites. So like in the recent chapters, they kind of revealed his story because they kind of keep him in the back of the show right now. But when you get to the part, eventually when you do get to the part when they reveal his story, like it's so twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorites. And then yeah, man, like students for me, Bakugo is one of my favorite. Like his development is phenomenal, man. Like I don't know why people shit on him so much because he picks on Deku, but he's got the best character development.
He really does, and this is what I like. And I'm gonna quote a line from Shrek, which most people don't do. But if you've seen Shrek, you know that part where Donkey's asking Shrek all these questions, and they're walking through this field, corn or some shit like that, and then he was like, ogres are like onions, and he was like, they stink. He's like, no. He's like, yes, no, they have layers, and he takes an onion and he pulls layers, right? There's so many layers to Bakugo, right? So at first you see he's just that bully, right? But what you don't see whenever you just look at it from, face value, if you look at it at face value, oh, he's a bully, he's an asshole. No, I mean, really not. He's insecure in the sense that he doesn't want anybody to beat him. But when you start to see where he's coming from, like his parents, his mom is the same way. It's a consistent winner. He's like a Michael Jordan. He's a LeBron James. He is a Kobe Bryant character. He's got to win. He's got to be the best. That's what motivates him. It's not him being beat by Deku, even though he will never be beat by Deku. That's his mindset. It's him having a winner's mentality. I will die on this hill. I'm not going to lose. I will destroy what a hero should be. I will give everything. I will make the ultimate sacrifice. I will destroy my body going further than anybody else because I will never be put in a position where I am weak, right? And you see this as a character. And it took me a couple episodes, but I always connect with those hotheads because that's what I am. I'm a hothead. I'm just sit here. I'll just talk shit. I'll shit on somebody. I'll make jokes. I'm like that type of person, right? I'm nothing out of hate or, mean or anything like that. It's just how I am, right? Just anger straight to the top. But when you sit back and you see a character that people think has flaws, which every character has flaws in this show, some more glaring than the others. When you really look at Bakugo, man, it is so crazy to see how and where he's come from to where he is at now. And iron sharpens iron. Like I said earlier, every Vegeta needs a Goku, like every Goku needs a Vegeta. You need somebody to grind on. You need somebody to improve on. You need competition, right? And to see that in today's day and age where, most things, nobody competes anymore. It's everybody wants a participation trophy. You see this character going from, I'm going to be the greatest to no, I have to be the greatest because I can't be looked at any differently. It's mind blowing what is really being done with this character. And it's like I said, it's a tip of the cap to the man that created these things. And then looking at all the information, like whenever you go from one issue to the next in these volumes, and then you see Bakugo is supposed to be just a douchey, smarmy, like he was smarter than everybody else. He's like, nah, I'm just going to make him super angry. And there's going to be a reason why he's super angry. So you see all these fleshed out ideas that he had for a character at first. And you sit here and try to think, there's no way in hell I could have looked at Bakugo like an evil Jimmy Neutron, right? There's no way, right? But yeah, it's just his character development is so fantastic. And he grows more than any other character, probably any more than 3 characters combined really in this series.
Man, you really broke that down well. Like I love Bakugo because of that, the change. I kind of relate to. I'm not too much of a hothead myself, but I love, I compete. I used to compete, so like having that winner's mentality, the thought of like losing or feeling the emotion of just losing, and I think not Deku, but Bakugo. Like people don't realize that. I think it's great. You broke it down to where you compared him to like LeBron James and Kobe. Like that's such a great analogy because that's exactly what Bakugo is. Man, he's talented like that, like those athletes, and yes, I mean it's human nature to be upset and to see someone just rise up against you, and that's exactly what Deku did. Deku just came out of nowhere and was just like, bam, he came on the scene. Bakugo was not prepared for it, so of course he was going to get mad. But I think what Bakugo makes him so great is because he's, people look over all the details that he has. Like, he's battle ready. He's incredibly athletic. He's just as smart, or even smarter than Deku at times. Season 5, they're going to be working in teams. You're going to see Bakugo, be a part of that. And so Bakugo's role as a character, I really like. I like how they did that though. Like, you got to really catch those fine line details of Bakugo to see how really great he is. Because then there was one part in the anime too, like where they were showing their test scores. Mm-hmm. Even Bakugo scored higher than Deku. Like, people don't realize that. Like, he's legit up there. He's just overshadowed by just being such a hothead.
What I like about that character, right? So the reason I don't like Boy Scouts, there's a whole reason when we were talking about Turtles. I'm not a huge Leonardo fan. I'm not a huge Captain America fan. I'm not a huge Superman fan. I like a character that walks that fine line between what is white and what is black. And what I mean by that is there's good and there's bad in almost everybody, right? Nobody is 100% good, just like there's nobody 100% bad in this world, both fictitiously and in the real world. There's nobody that is 100% one way or the other. And what I like about Bakugo, right? And I'm going to use kind of like a wrestling analogy. Were you ever a wrestling fan, like professional wrestling, WWE, WWF, WCW, that type of stuff back in the day?
Not really, but I know what you're talking about though, because I got a buddy who used to do wrestling like that.
So Ric Flair, I'm pretty sure you know who Ric Flair is. The dirty, yeah, God damn it, right? That's what I'm talking about. One of my favorite wrestlers of all time. And what people loved about him so much is that he was a bad guy, and by bad guy I mean a heel, right? So you have baby faces and heels. So he was a heel, right? But he was one of those guys that would go both ways. He would do, baby face like stuff, and he would do heel stuff, but he was also the dirtiest player in the game. And what I mean by that is he would do whatever it took to win, a predetermined match, right? So low blow, hit somebody with the belt when they weren't looking, that type of shit. And that's what I like about Bakugo, is he's not going to be that clear-cut All Might, right? And then he's not going to be this Shigaraki level character. He is going to be somewhere in the middle of these two characters. He'll do more good than he will bad. But at the end of the day, good and bad is subjective, right? I can say I'm doing good. I'm stealing this food because my family's hungry, so I'm doing a good thing. So you can really justify any bad thing, with the exception like murder or rape. I don't think you can really justify that. But you can sit here and say I'm doing this, but I'm doing it for a greater cause, right? So it's all subjective. It's all how you look at it or how it's perceived. And that's what I like about Bakugo is he's looking at something as not just a punch, you go down. It's if I punch you here. He is very methodical, right? He's going to pick you apart. He's going to sit here and punch, slap. He might have to throw some dirt in your eyes, right? He might have to like hit you with his blaster over here, like when they fought All Might for their I can't remember the exam. It was you remember when him and Deku teamed up? I can't remember what that it was, made their finals or their midterms when they had to fight All Might. So he's going to find some unconventional way to win, where Deku plans everything that could possibly happen, and everything where he just sits here and starts taking off. This could happen. If this could happen, this could happen. Bakugo's one of those dudes that just sits there and says, well, I got to fuck somebody up. I don't know how I'm going to do it, other than I'm just going to beat them until they stop, or I'm going to burn them until they stop. But he's also looking at it in a way where I'm going to do whatever I have to do so I get to go home and I win. And it goes back to that whole winning mentality. You got to have that in that character. And I think that's what drives him more than anything more than Deku, or, being so close to Shoto Todoroki, or being so close to Kirishima, or any of these other characters. He just wants to be the best, and it doesn't matter how he does it. And it doesn't matter who he pisses off. If you've seen any of the entrance exams, he's like, I'm just better than all of you. And it fucking sucks, man. Get used to it. It sucks to suck, loser, is essentially what's going on. And it's just fantastic, man.
Yeah. So, before we wrap things up here for part 1, because we're going to do a part 2 on your platform. So the folks listening here, this is just part 1 of our podcast collaboration. So make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Spoiler Force Podcast, and then follow Julian on What's in My Head podcast. All the links will be in the description once this episode's uploaded. That way you can follow him and then watch part 2, because we're going to talk more about My Hero and more stuff that Julian's going to bring up too. But man, this was great. I can't wait. Let's so what we're going to do here is by the time my episode drops, Julian's second half will come up to, it'll be back to back. That way you don't have, there's no wait time, and it'll be just all together. But again, man, like, share, and subscribe to both of our contents, and just continue to support. And I can't wait for the second half. Dude. Let's get to it, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be second, third, fourth, fifth, however many times you want to do this, because we could just sit here. I know I talked a shit ton at this point, but I mean, it's just fun talking to somebody that's like-minded, that likes the same shit you like, or just looks at it from a different perspective, and you get to see something that you love through somebody else's eyes, man. And it's always fun to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly why I love collaborating with other people, man. I love seeing perspective. Doesn't make the world seem too small. You know,
Yeah.
I like learning from other people.
Yeah.
So yeah, man, let's get to it. So folks, jump to Julian's podcast, What's in My Head. The links are in the description of the YouTube channel, or the podcast notes and all that stuff. So follow him, and then the episode should be there once once we wrap up here. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow, like, share, subscribe, and rate Spoiler Force Podcast. For comments, questions, or criticism, you can email me at rickyvang92@gmail.com, or message me on Instagram at instagram.com/rickyvang92.